Welcome back to an episode, and what is the exciting one for me, where we start cutting the roof on this carport extension. So you would have already seen, and it would have been last week's episode, where the block and brickwork was done. We have done all the posts that are now covered in blockwork in there. All the steels are in, that's all complete. Yeah, all this is in, as you can see, and we've got a lovely bird cage in our building now, and scaffold all the way around, which is lovely. So that's nice and safe for us. That'll keep certain members of our YouTube community happy. There we are, up there. Nice and safe. So myself and Matthew today are going to be putting this roof on, or today's job will be setting the wall plates, because we've got different heights, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And, well, we won't have different heights where they play today, will we? But at the minute we've got different bases to put wall plate on that we've got to make to the same level. But if you've caught it in previous episodes, you'd understand why. So we'll go up on top now and we'll talk you through it. So here we are, look at that, lovely bird cage. It doesn't happen for us very often, but we decided to do it on this one because of the sheer width front to back of the roof and the fact that we've got nowhere to put ourselves, so it made more sense. Anyway, so if you remember, that steel is higher than that one because that one forms the lintel for the doorway. But this one, we couldn't do that because we've got a big steel going across there, which would have meant that steel sits on top of that steel. Now, even though that's okay, we couldn't do it in the order we had to do this job in. We had to put that steel in first, and therefore we'd have had to undermine that steel to put that one in after, so we decided not to do that. So what Luke did instead was, or we decided to do was, we've fixed that into that one, that steel into that one, which you've already seen anyway. If you haven't, it's on the screen. And then we put a bit of blockwork then in there, look. And then we put a standard catnip lintel underneath that to then form our doorway height opening. So that's why. That's why we've got different heights. So we're going to have to make up in timber there. We have got holes, as you can see already, in the top of our steels, look. So I've got some of those coach bolts that I'm going to put in. We may then put some of these short jiffy hangers on, haven't we, Matt, potentially? Timbers in the steels and put short jiffy hangers on if required, but I don't think we need to because we're going to be bolting them from on the side. So we're going to set that. Set that is our first job, and hopefully the heavens aren't going to open on us and we have to run for cover. Right then, you'd have seen myself and Matt prep this. We've cut this bit of gutter here so we can get the wall plate in. Luckily that runs away from the house, so we shouldn't fill the cavity up full of water. This one, we've left this one behind me in just to protect the doorway below really, so it doesn't come off the roof and go straight down the face of the door. Anyway, you got to do what you got to do, haven't you? We have put a 4x3 on top of here for now to see what the heights are. In fact, you know what, Matt? I'm going to switch and check this one first. What we've done is we put the 4x3 on the back one because this is the level, this is the height we're going to have to be at. And I've got to build the front one up now to suit. Now, I don't quite know how low or how high we are, so let's just get this set again. The only problem is this laser, as good as it is, the receiver is very sensitive, isn't it?
Laser.
Freaking laser beams. Down, down, down. Right, so I think what I'm going to do, instead of messing, is just put that. Can I mark that on there? Can I see it? And what we're trying to do, we're trying to work out exact height so I can cut this extra piece of timber on here, which is what my plan always was. Blimey, that's good, isn't it? That mark is pretty much exactly that, it's that distance. That's worked out well, isn't it? So I know now that, because when I dropped it over there, I'd put a mark there to get it level, and when I've picked it up, and from that mark to there now is actually the distance I've got to pick this one up. So it looks like it's another 4x3. Now I don't order a double 4x2 actually, so that's what I'll probably do. Come on, rain, let's not. All that beautiful weather we had with all the block work, and look at it. Tool belt on, ready to look, ready to go. And I have to suffer the pain now of... Right, that's 110 mil. So that's more than two 4x2s, isn't it, unfortunately. So I may have to... Oh, we got some, what's it, haven't we, some 6x1?
Yes, we have.
So I could always cut some 6x1. We got some down there, didn't we? I could cut it to 4x1 and stick it through the saw, couldn't I, just to make it 20 mil? Because it's 90, whatever it is. Might be 93 mil or something, or whatever it might be. So I'll have a look at that. And I'll just stick some 4x1 in the middle, maybe. But so I don't want to use 4x2 over there to make that smaller, because it means I haven't got as much fixing for my nails, especially when it's on top of a steel, and I want a coach screw up in those holes into that. So we're going to do that. We'll have a look at that now, and then what I think I'll do is we'll have a look at making sure they are parallel. So once the height's right, because it makes your roof easy to do, we'll have a look at the parallel, which again makes it right. As if they're like that or like that, it makes it difficult to pattern cut your rafters. So we'll have a look at that next. So we got rained off yesterday, and as you can see it's a little bit sunnier today, but we are due rain again. So we are back. We have completed the makeup of the wall plate on the front that we talked about, which comprises of a 4x3, a double 4x2, and then a 4x1 on top, which is within a millimetre set to our laser. We checked that this morning. And on the rear, we have, as we've already stated, we had just one 4x3. All we did then, we just used some 60mm M12 coach bolts. I think they're called coach, but anyway, coach bolts fixed through the holes in the steel up into the wall plates both sides. I am also going to put timber in the web of the steel there, and we will run some small jiffy hangers down as well into the web, and then fix it to the web as well. So we'll also do that. Likewise over there. What else have we done, Matt? We have then checked our width, and we have put this in place, haven't we? This timber. This timber now is in place. The left-hand side of this, as I look at it, is the right-hand side of the ridge. So we've measured centre between wall plates, outside measurement, and then we've come in half thickness of a ridge. So what we can do now, if you want to spin round, Matt, and have a look up there, what we've also done is we've taken the ridge tiles off and the tiles in order to set a place now for our new ridge to meet the old ridge. However, I'll say but the old ridge, but there isn't a ridge on this because it's trusses. So it's just waving at the fans. It's not really, he hasn't got a clue where. He's probably thinking, what are they doing, pointing cameras at each other? Weirdos. So there's no ridge on this, which is normally quite nice, because I normally put the old ridge, the new ridge into the old ridge, and I can skew screw it just to stop the movement of it and get myself set up temporary. So it'd be a bit more of a pain, but what I'll have to do now is cut the laths off to the centre of the trusses up there, and then put myself a lay board in then between the trusses to sit my new ridge onto. And then what I'll do then is I'll just splay cut the bottom of the ridge to the pitch, the seat cut, to then screw it onto the lay board in between the trusses instead, rather than being able to just butt it up against the old ridge, which is a bit of a pain. It's a bit more work before we get set up, but there we go. And so we're going to crack on with that, and I'll talk you through how we find out where the centre is up there. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
So you've just seen us put the lay board in to carry the ridge, and I'll show you how that's done in a minute. It just means that we've got to splay this ridge to the seat cut of the roof, but I'll show you that all about seat cuts and plumb cuts and everything in a minute. So we've took advantage of the fact that, or a disadvantage, whatever you want to call it, it started to rain, but it stopped again now. So we put the gazebo up, and rather than, we've covered the roof up there now after doing all the lay boards, and we're going to start doing ourselves a scarf joint, which is a structural joint to join two pieces of timbers together. We've got to have a ridge of 6 metres and 10. We've only got 4.8 metre timber on site. Yes, you can get 6 metre lengths, but they are expensive, and if you don't use it for this instance, I didn't measure it out, I just guessed at what we might have to do, and I was happy to do a scarf joint, and I didn't want to waste the money on buying a 6 metre timber if I didn't then need it. But it takes us on to a nice little feature in the video of doing a scarf joint, doesn't it? So this is how I do it. Basis of it is, start off, get your crown, make sure there's no crown on your timber. This is perfectly flat, but if for argument's sake this was crowned like that, which means it wasn't perfectly straight, you make sure that crown is pointing up when you come to put your scarf joint together. Then what I do, 600, so measure 600 there, look like that. Put a bit of a line on there, just so I know where it is. Come 50mm up on the end. End's a bit rough, so let's just mark it there for now, just so I can get a, doesn't help with the fact that timber's wet as well. 50mm on this end. Scratch into the mark it, look. And then join the dots. Right there, Matt, it is, isn't it? And then join your dots up. Nice if it's dry timber. Okay, so there you've got that, look. What I do then, which is 50mm down, 50mm up, and then join your dots together where they meet, look. Then get your square and put it on your line there, look. Where it intersects, like that. On your line, where it intersects, can you see that, yeah? Where it's intersecting there, that point there, look. Yeah. Where the 50mm mark meets that line. And then just put yourself a square line in there like that. Like that. And the same the other end. Oh, I could have done actually. I could have got my roofing square out for this, so I can set it to this, but and I still might do to make sure my cuts are exactly bang on. But okay, so that's your initial basis of your scarf joint. So what we're going to do now is this bit, as you can see here, that will be taken out like so. Probably bossed off now. All I've simply done now is I've cut my length that I want. I've added a little bit more on, just so we're not short. Hopefully, if we were short, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it? I've added on sort of 2.5 inches or something, 60mm, 65mm. So I'll put that on top of this to use this now as a template to cut this one exactly the same. I mean, of course it's got to be as exact as it can be, but with wet timber and the way it is, there's not much you can do about it. So I'll just get my level flat like that, put it on the top like that, and just make sure I'm touching all the way along there, make sure you're touching the bottom timber, and I'm happy with that. I've put this rebar here on the edge of the timber again to obviously utilise as much timber as I can so I don't waste. And then, as best I can now with soggy timber, I'll then mark round this, like that. Make sure you hold it in place. You can put a couple of screws if you wanted to, but when we've got this much space, we're all right. We can afford to do what we're doing. I mean, to be honest, if it was something I did all the time, I'd just make myself a plywood template and just do it like this, and you could use a router if you wanted to, but I don't want to. But you could do, it would be a good idea. I did think about it when I was pondering having to do it. I thought, you know what, I can make myself a nice template, but that made me look a bit too professional then, wouldn't it? I don't want people to think anything of me, bad of me like that. Right. I know you don't. So that's not the best, is it? But it's not the best. It's quite, yeah, it's not the best. So all I do now, make sure you don't cut the wrong side of the line there, because you'd be short, because I want this to be the same thickness all the way through. Just again, just mark it out like that. And then you've got to cut inside your lines there, and then make sure you cut that side of the line on this one, so it stays the same thickness. If you cut the wrong side of the line, it'll then go in further, and your shoulders won't be flush. Your shoulders will be like this. Okay, so let me just set this back up then, and I'll get this cut out, and we'll show you then. There's one final stage before we adjust to trim, which means we've got to cut the notches out for the folding wedges, but I'll cut this out and we'll move on to that next. Well, I suppose we can see whether the cut's any good now, can't we? Yeah. See, I'm trying to cut to a line that I can't see. Moment of truth. Let's get some timber on it so it sits flat. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Some room, there we are. This is what we want to happen. Now, you might have to just tweak a little bit, potentially. Again, the weather is not great with us, so there we are, look. In fact, by the looks of that, mate. Yeah, we could do. Yeah. There's a bit of a dip in there in this that's what it is, there's a bit of a dip in there. Right, so we might have to tweak this a little bit because of the, you know what, I reckon that timber's thicker than that one, you know. That's 222, what's that going to say? That's 220, should have cut the mill thicker. That's, I just thought, why is that done that, but that's why. So all you can do with this now, if you wanted to, which I want to. Let me just move this, that's it. If I do this that way, you could do it this way, look now. I think I'm struggling a little bit because my bench isn't exactly flat, is it? No. That's why. You could do that, look. Oh, that's better. That looks better now, doesn't it? Now, can you sort of see that at the bottom there's a bit of a gap there? If I get my bench a bit flatter, what we can do now is at the top, look, you can see that shoulder's nice and tight, look, see that one? What I can do now to close that gap up, so my driving wedges do what they're meant to do, and that's pull these two shoulders together, is I can just run my saw down there and just get Matt to hold it, or I can put a temporary screw in it, run my saw down there, using the one of them as a guide. And when I say using it as a guide, I mean, I can run that down there like that, nice and steady, and then cut a blade's thickness out at a time, and cut it, move it in, until the shoulders tighten up nice. That's what I'm going to do, I think, to make sure that fits better. How are we on the, what's it one, Matt? We're not too bad, are we? The other one? No. That's looking quite good, isn't it? Yeah. So other than a little bit in the middle, maybe, a little bit tight there, so I can run the saw across that, or get my little planer out, which I probably will. And then we'll go on to the next stage, which is marking for the driving wedges. Just make sure when I'm only putting a temporary screw in there just to make sure that we are where we want to be, and that's pretty flat, so I just want to check my cuts because it's difficult because it's wet. Ooh. It's apprentice noise, isn't it? No offence to any apprentices.
Day 1, week 1.
And I'm on about day 4,000 and God knows how many. how many weeks. Right, again, get my timber. We got another piece of, no, let me just get that under there, Matt, just so I can push that down to get that flat. That's it. That's quite, not quite, it's twisted a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if I put that on there like that. Right, make sure this is flush, which it is. And again, it is wet timber, so you know, this isn't joinery. You can only do what you can do. There's a little bit of a lip there, like I said, but there is a discrepancy in this timber. But what I might do, because that little bit of a lip there, I might just get the planer, make this the top, because I know it doesn't matter which way I flip this, and then just run my planer across that. Or I could just leave it and set my roof, these rafters, just run a line through. I've got options, haven't I? I've got options. So what we'll do now, if we can flip this up there, can't we? And I can sort of show you what that looks like. That's what it looks like, scarf joint. It's not complete yet. And then I'll get loads of, I've got some glue in the van. I'll glue this, pour on all the surfaces. But now what we've got to do is this. So find your centre. And that's 610. 305. 305 is my centre. There's me off cut timber. The centre of this, what was this, 45 did we say? It's 46mm today. Be 22.5 again tomorrow.
It's extra water.
Extra water. So I'm just going to put my, I could do this by eye, but I'm just doing this so you can see exactly each step I'm doing. So I'm just going to use this now just to mark the centre on there. So can you see that? What I want to do now is mark my centre, either side of there like that, because I want to use, and you'll see why I'm doing this in a minute, to mark my timber. So if I put that on there like that, on the marks I've just made, get my square, which is in my pouch, like that, put it on my mark so now I'm centre, put that on there like that, make sure I am centre to my cuts, which I am, and then just draw some marks there like that through both pieces of timber. Then what you do, flip your timber, start again, get your centre line like that, put your marks again. Now you can either do this by eye or whatever you want to do, but as it is, the thickness of this is just right. Okay, so that now needs to be cut out. So I'll set my saw depth to the depth of that, take this apart, cut this out, and I'll make myself some folding wedges with this timber, because I'll use this because that I've just used now, that width of that for the wedges, might use the same piece of timber in case there's a discrepancy. Because what you don't want is your wedges to be too big to try and get in the back in the hole, because it won't force your shoulders together then when you start knocking these wedges in. Okay, well excuse the difference in sound if you can tell, because my phone's just died, so I've had to plug it into a power bank. So of course I can't plug my microphones in, so apologies for that. What I'm going to do now, we've just finished doing the scarf joint and letting the glue go off, and I'll show you that in a moment. But before it rains again, which I think it's coming, I'm just going to find out the pitch of this roof, so I can show the pitch of this, get the pitch of this roof, so I can then do the seat cut on the end of the ridge. So while I do that, it's quite simple. I just get my level on the side of yours. I'll move my head in a minute. Get myself a level mark on here, which then gives me my plumb cut. So that's a plumb cut there now. I'll then get my square, and before people ask, I don't think you can get these anymore. This 12-inch one. You can get a 6-inch version. You can't get a 12-inch version anymore, as far as I'm aware. I ain't going to get it anymore because I'm going to put it in the wrong place. Right, let me just move my mark out. So you then get your fence, and on this one it's got used top edge for settings. So I want to use the plumb cut. So that's plumb cut across there. So make sure I'm not sat on the felt and I'm just on the truss. I'll then set that to there. My head in the way, Matt.
No, I can see that.
Okay, if I just set that there like that.
Closing in on the line of your plumb, that's
And
it.
then I'll just tighten this off. And what that then gives me is the plumb cut of this roof and the seat cut. Because that way now is seat cut and that way is plumb cut. But it also gives me, on here, it gives me the pitch of the roof. And that is, I'm going to say, that's a 25 degrees. So if I just mark that like that, it's a wonder I can see this anymore because I've done that so many times now. All the lines on it from over the years.
Always clean it.
I don't want to clean it. So 22, 4, 6, 8, yeah, so it's there, 2 in, so it's not quite actually. 24, it's probably 25.5 degrees, so if I just set that like that now. Back to the line, so that's my seat cut. So that what is now, when I put this on here like this, my ridge, that seat cut is required, as you can see there, like if I hold that level, I can't really hold it to show you very well, but the seat cut on the bottom of this timber now will now become, and hold it, which way have I got to go? That way. You see that? Hold it level, that'll then become that cut, look. See?
Yep.
On the bottom of the ridge we've just done, so I need to put this angle down, bottom of that, and it'll sit nice on top of there, flat, so we can then screw it down, albeit temporarily with screws, because I don't want to fix it properly yet, in case I've got to move this end of the ridge round this way to make sure that it's parallel with that end. Until I get my first 2 rafters on at that far end, I'll then show you how I'll then make sure this is centre by measuring up from the wall plate either side to get an arc to find the centre. Or I might just do that first, I don't know yet, but we're going to have a sandwich now, aren't we? Before the rain comes.
I think so.
Carry on before the rain
Well,
comes.
I'd rather carry on while it's dry.
Let's carry on.
Because if it does rain, that's a perfect chance to have a
It is. Let's do that then.
sandwich.
You see the gap under the level, yeah?
Yeah, you can,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's our scarf joint done. Just before we start putting our plumb cut, seat cut on that we've just talked about. That's it done. There was a little bit of discrepancy in one of the timbers. So we've made sure it was parallel, which it is. So we made sure it's not sort of bowed or anything. Put the level across it. And we know we're parallel with our gap. And then we've then planed it and got it nice and flat to make sure that this is all lovely on the top. And that will now become my top. And this end will be going in the roof because there's not so much weight on this. I'd rather put the full length of timber in the main part of the roof. But I'm happy with that as it goes, considering it's not joinery and it's just wet timber. Put my wedges in there. I've used plenty glue. I did use the last of this stuff I've got, this Ilbrook, which is very, very good. You haven't used that before. And then I've topped it up with this stuff, which is internal and external use. Excellent. I clamped it and I've used a couple of 150mm number 6 screws as it is now, or in old money it's a 6-inch 12 into there, 2 of them into there, 2 of them into there, and also put my wedges in and make sure my wedges are glued and then cut them off flush. I'm happy with that, are you, Matt?
Yeah,
I think that looks all right, doesn't it?
it does.
It's all right. It looks great for my house though. So there we are.
Under felt and tile.
Under felt and tile, never to be seen again, yeah. No one will wonder in that glory again. Well, more glory anyway. So let's put the seat cut on that and get it up in the air. So that's in temporarily. Now what I will do is, because I put those lay boards in just to suit my wall, you can see it's nice on the top one. but there's a bit of a gap on the bottom or not, but that is cupped, that timber. So what I'm going to do, once I'm happy where it is in the right position, I'm going to put a screw from the underside and screw it into the bottom of that splay, and that'll soon sort that little gap out. Because I am, in fact, you can see it there. There's a little bit that could actually come up anyway. So that'll solve that problem. This is all bubble, and your scarf jut looks even better in the light. Bigging myself up, am I? But I'm happy with that. I'm really pleased. So what we're doing now is we are going to mark our rafters on our wall plate and set out for our vellux, aren't we? Now.
Yep.
So there we are. Let's do that for a minute.
Do
We're going 400 centres. Now the tape measure back, please.
my tape
Your
measure.
tape, yeah, plaster's
Yeah,
tape.
there we go.
We don't use as much as mine. Now, I have got to put a vellux in, but what I want to do is, because I have a short rafter at the bottom of the vellux anyway, I do my 400 centres, and all I'll do is I'll just put a bit of a cross there for me, so me and Matt know when we're putting them in. That's where we've got to be. So I'll do this all the way across. And then once I've done this, I can set out my double rafters. Like that. Get the last one in there. Put that one in a minute because I can't quite get to that. So what I'm going to do now is just mark. So all that little cross is there, that is just to tell me which side the rafters have got to be. So we don't go wrong side of the line. What I tend to do as well, I tend to put a bit of a mark down the face so when we put the plumb cut in we can get it exact. Now what I want to do is find my internal line, which is, where are we? We've got to find an internal line. Right, so we find an internal line because I've got to get centre to make sure I'm centering the room. I'll do that and I'll probably lift a plank up and plumb up from inside so I can get my internal brickwork and plumb up, because I've got to put dabbed boards on both sides. I haven't got to worry so much about being out. So I'll get that, put a mark and go centre on my wall plate, and I'm having a 980 780 vellux, which means it's 980 high, 780 wide, and you generally allow 60mm on your width and your height, which then allows for your plasterboard and your insulation either side. So I should do that, work it out centre and remark my wall plate, show my double rafters, maybe in a black mark or something, just so I know where they are. And I can put those on. But then in order to maintain my plasterboard and fixing everything else underneath, I'll then put my short rafters back in at 400, regardless of whether they are next to the double or whether they're further away. Just need to make sure I keep an eye on that one as well. So I should do that, and then I'll show you then how I mark and get that in the right place up there using the old trigonometry.
Pythagoras' theorem.
A bit of trigonometry, the old arcs and things. Anyway, I'll do a bit of that.
Use the inverse square law for all I care. Oh.
So we have a sandwich?
Yes. Talking rubbish.
Okay, so we're setting out now to find where the ridge hits the lay boards that I've put on in the roof there. Now this isn't an exact science, it's just to get it as close as possible before I start putting these rafters in. All I've done, from the internal blockwork on the wall plates, I've come in exactly the same dimension. In this instance I've picked 2.4 because that's where I marked my 400 centres, so we've got a line on each one now, like I've just shown you, to set my rafters out. What we've done then is, we've then got the tape and we pulled it down to the bottom, like that. We come up here and picked a measurement, like that, if you show that.
Yeah.
Again, we've done what's burning 100 again, so we've put a 100mm mark on there.
Burn 100.
And at the top here, I've then put a mark on here at 5.4. Doesn't make a difference, it doesn't matter what it is, it's just a figure that you need to keep in mind. And use the same again. We do exactly the same over there, 5.4, and we've created ourselves a bit of an arc. So if I have that camera off it,
Yep.
and I can show, what we've done then is we've formed ourselves a little arc there, look, and then where the two, 5.4 from that side, 5.4 from this side, we've stuck a mark, and that is our centre now. And we're going to be near as damn it now. So what I should do now is get my square, put a line down there, measuring left or right, doesn't matter, the width of my ridge, and mark another level line on there, and I'll know that's there or thereabouts. I'll put a temporary screw in it, and then we can start setting out for our rafters. Okay, moving on to measuring out for and marking what plumb cut you need on your new rafters, and I do it a very simple way. See, I fix a piece of timber on there, and that dimension from the top of here to there that sits on top of the ridge, look, is a third, which is what, of 65mm in this instance, near enough. This is 8x2, so a third of this, there or thereabouts, is 65mm, a little bit more obviously. And that's the amount of plumb cut you should put in down there. You shouldn't really take out any more than a third, is what they sort of require, whoever they are, that's what they say. So I'll just do that. So to work out my plumb cut now, I'll just pick this end up, the third that I'm going to be cutting out down there instead, and then I put a plumb line on there, look like that, and then set my roofing square to it, and that's how I do it. It's that simple for me. Another thing we did off camera is we measured from that point where the rafters are going to sit up there on the top down to the marks that we put on the wall plate earlier. We've then done the same from this side down to the marks over there, and I think this one was 7mm bigger, was it, Matt? 6mm bigger? 6mm. This dimension was 6mm bigger, which we could something as simple as this is a little bit out of plumb, or it's a little bit twisted. But all I did then was, I think that this was 3/820, wasn't it? And that was 3/814. So all I did then was, to get the rafters exactly the same size, I just halve that, halve the 6mm, gives me 3mm either side. That then becomes 3/814, 3/817, because it's 3mm, 3/817, and then this becomes 3/817. And that's how you get this in the dead centre, and that's how you do it. I hope you understand that. I'll try and do a little bit more talking about that later on. So we're back. Matt had a day off yesterday doing plastering. Not a day off plastering, but you know what I mean. He had a day off from us, if you like. Had a rest. And myself and Luke went over to the garage to get prepped for finish all the plasterboarding, ready for Matt to go next week after. And also get the floor prepped ready for inspection before myself and Luke go back and screen next week. So all these rafters are on. You see I've already cut my bird's mouth for the purlins. Cut them now, pattern cut them all, and I'll just put my purlins in after, because what I'll do is I shall put my first purlin onto there, nail it in, and then my second one can then easily be bolted against that because it's already in place. I'll put that through before I start doing my vellux, because that's going here somewhere. Matt is now prepping the tiles out the way so we can move our rafters into that roof before we start putting our lay boards on up there, which we may attempt today, depending on what the weather gives us. But I'm going to continue now putting all my doubles in, again prepping for my vellux, so there isn't a vellux on the front anymore. And we're going to try and get this done. I might get a ladder frame in first as well, get this done, ready for Luke to start the block work and brickwork, or get it cut in. So yeah, that's what we're going to do.
I wake up in the morning in this great blue state. Golden fingers caress my face. Slips through the window on a silky breeze. A dreamer's line to plant some seeds. My believer, healing all my doubts. A lighted mirror, reflecting out every true potential. A bedrock belief, an elaborate plot to set this bird free. From every element of based, every color that's attached. She paints pictures blue and green, and I release them to the sea. The ancient memories, just as fleeting as a breeze. She paints pictures blue and green, and I release them to the sea. How we lay in the sunset.
So a little bit of an update for you then. All the rafters, the main rafters are on, other than the ladder frame. All the doubles are on. I've started nailing them all off, or I've finished nailing them all off now, because I didn't used to do it, but I just like the idea of screwing it now, holding it all together, and then nail it all off in one go. with the exception of obviously when you do your doubles, you put a nail on the inside first, and then because you can't get to it after. And the likes of that one there, it's close. Nail that one first, and then obviously nail the other side after. I've put my vellux bottom rail in there now. I'm not going to do a double on that because, for the simple reason is that below here is a double anyway, so that'll sit on top of the double purling. So there's no need for a in my opinion, for a double noggin above that. That just wouldn't make sense. I shall, however, double the top one. This will be double, obviously, with a jiffy hanger on it, but again, the bottom, no need. So now, my next job, talking about purling, is to put the purlins in. Made it simple for myself. All I should do now is just get that, sit it on the roof there, put it inside the pre-done bird's mouths, and then put a screw both ends maybe, and if necessary I can put a bit of a prop on the underside of that just to tap it to align all these correctly, and then I'll nail the first one off to the inside of the bird's mouth, and then I can go ahead then and adhesive, and I'll show you the adhesive I'm going to use, nail it, and then I'm going to use the turbo coach bolts as well, just to bolt all those together. So there we are. I'll also do the same on this side. Well, as you can see, Matt is starting to insulate. We're going to insulate from the outside so we don't have to stand in the dust, aren't we, Matt?
Second ever.
Instead of going underneath with all the dust, we're going to insulate from the top, aren't we? Stops getting your fair sole, doesn't it?
It does.
A lot better. So there we are, that'll be nice. And the Sparky will come along then and put his cables in that void there, look, in here, across here, and drop down to his spotlights. And that'll be that, won't it?
It will. As I say.
As they say, whoever they are. So we'll carry on. So from the start then, purlins are all on. They've been glued with the glue you saw on the screen, and then I've put loads of nails on it, and I'm just going to put the coach screws in it later on, which you'll see further in future episodes. I dare say I'll countersink them so it sits below the face so Matt can board it nice, and then I'll, like I say, I'll put the turbo coach screws in there, or coach screws in there. So there we are. Matt is continuing with the insulation, having a bit of a mare, trying to keep them all from fitting, making them fit nice. I have done the double at the top now. Again, that's single because it's sat in the purling. That's double, they've got a jiffy hung I've put the top and bottom, either side of the vellux. That vellux is ready to be set in place. I have completed ladder frames. All I did was, there's no real amount you meant to put in, but these are about every 900, these timbers. I reckon that suffice, especially what happened there is Luke will make sure these are level, whether he's got to lift it up or push it down, and then he'll build up underneath here, build his brickwork up and go underneath here, and then make sure it's packed so it can't move, and that then stops that. That one is a little bit high on the bottom just because that inside rafter off fixture is twisted over that way, so therefore it picks this up in the air. So I've allowed myself a bit of a gap there just to make sure that when this does drop, which it will do just through gravity really over the next couple of days, it's got somewhere to expand into, because I did put that nice and tight and thought actually no, it's going to have no room to expand if I do that, so I'll do that. Yes, that purling's done as well. Matt, look at the enjoyment on his face, look. Okay. What he's doing is, he's cutting, oh you can't see it there, he's cutting, oh you can see it there, look. He's cutting up and around the purling, and then when that goes, sort of goes flush like that, it's all nice and tidy. So that's what he's doing. So I think, other than cutting these rafter tails off, which I'm not going to do yet, because what I want to do, which is shortly, I've got to start cutting this, setting my layboards in for the cutting the jack rafters on. So I want to see where that centre's going to come, to know then where I'm going to do this intersection here, whether this roof's going to be slightly higher than that one, or that one's going to go over the top of this one. I don't know yet. It may work out that we can keep it where it is, and then the intersection of the two fascias will stay where it is. So we'll have a look at that. So I think we'll finish this episode there, because I'm not quite sure, because we're doing real-time footage, how far in we are into it. So I don't know. So we'll end it there. And next episode will be removing all of this roof behind me. Well, not all of it, but most of it, to set my layboards, put my jack rafters in, and complete the structure of this roof. So, as always, thank you very much for watching this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Say ta-ra, Matthew.
Ta-ra! It's like it's snowing. Can't even blame it on dandruff. Got no hair.
Well, it certainly isn't me either. Must be Luke. He's miles away.
Oh, David Gianola.